In the Middle East, you are receiving more than 1,500 candidates per post.
And so you risk losing good talent.
CV will not get you a job.
No, the people that you know.
80% of the times. Corporates, whenever they post, they already have an internal candidate waiting. Yes. Gen Z will bring changes to corporates more than any other generation before.
100%.
They already have 3 years experience, so they are about to become managers.
Are we ready for that?
If you didn't involve them today, tomorrow you will suffer big time. It happens to me, by the way. In the first 5 years, 5 companies.
That's not on your LinkedIn, by the way. I couldn't see that. Today, I'm here with Iyas Seidan. Iyas has been in big corporate for a number of years, but stepped out last year to scratch that entrepreneurial itch. I brought him in today to understand what really happens behind the scenes within corporate HR. I'm going to start with quite a broad question, actually. Okay. And this would require you to think on two different aspects, which is the aspect of clients and the aspect of candidates.
Okay.
And my question is, how would you describe the Middle East market today?
Tough, hot, and a lot of opportunities, yet low opportunities.
Lots of opportunities, but low opportunities. Yeah. You're going to have to dig a bit deeper into that one.
Think of it this way. Today in the Middle East, previously, Middle East was not, I would say, a hot market for international candidates. Yet now, it's really, really, attractive for international candidates. So today, any candidate, you are not competing with the local, I would say, candidates who are, like, say, in the UAE or Saudi Arabia or whatnot, especially in GCC countries, I would say. But you are competing globally. There is a lot of opportunities and yet a lot of competition there. And not to mention also people who are moving to this country, to Saudi Arabia, to UAE, Qatar, etc.
So in terms of then people economics, there's more people looking for work than there are roles. And now the people that are looking for work has expanded beyond the region. So the competition is rife. Okay. And so what does that then mean for clients? And if I was to really dig deep specifically, what is the appetite for clients looking for talent that sits outside the region at this stage?
By the way, it's getting even more challenging for companies, for the clients. It's not even getting any easier. They said, like, the more choices you have, the less free you are.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that when I try and park in a parking space. If there's 5 parking spaces, I stumble.
Yeah, exactly. Even like in psychology, psychologists usually they will give you like 2 options only. They will not go with the 3rd or 4th one. And even there's a book by Matt Higgins that says burn the boat. It talks about like tossing like plan B, etc. It's a different story. But what I wanted to say is that when you have a lot of choices, you have big responsibility to select the right choice. Now, think of it this way. You are a client, you want to hire a position. In the Middle East, by the way, we run this study. You are receiving more than 1,500 candidates per post. Usually, like, this is on average. Within these 1,500 candidates, internationally, that applying to you internationally, maybe you have, let's say, 500 candidates who are qualified candidates. Now, can you imagine? Now, when you want to select, first you want to select the right method to shortlist these people. And this is a different story. But then, whenever you are selecting someone, and you need to ensure that this is the right fit for me, and even not the right fit, actually the right ad for me, the right ad values, etc., etc., etc. Because if you end up hiring the wrong person, you already burnt the 500 good candidates, right? Because you sent like
that's a fair point, actually. So you've if you hire the wrong person, not only is it going to cost you by hiring the wrong person, you also lose the talent pool that came to you originally.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So would you say then that the biggest challenge for hiring managers today is, because there is an abundance, being able to focus that choice decision is really, really difficult?
Yes. Like, finding a good candidate is as difficult as for the candidate to find a job. This is in my opinion. I might be wrong, but this is what I think what's happening. Again, because today we are not looking only about technical skills. Previously, like maybe in the 80s or 70s, people were looking only for the technical skills.
Yeah.
If you can do it, then you are hired. If you cannot do it, it was simple. But today you are looking to match the values, the attitude, the personality, the culture, and then technical skills, and. So you have to look at a lot of aspects.
And this is at every level within an organization, or this is just at leadership?
I think it goes less with the juniors, but it's also important also for juniors, because these are going to build up for your organization. So I would look at it like equally, but if I would focus on of course, I would focus on the leadership, I would focus on the middle management more than the junior ones. But it's still, for juniors also, it's very important, especially you're talking about people from Gen Z.
We're going to come on to that in a second, actually, because I think that's a really important and independent topic in itself.
Definitely.
But if you're then creating all these different boxes that need to be ticked, what would you say is the appetite for risk from companies? Because sometimes you might fall for somebody who has great human skills, or you fall for them because they have great technical skills, but there could be something missing. Then what happens normally?
If all boxes got ticked, I mean, you have the perfect hiring, right? But there is nothing such like perfect hiring. There is no such like perfect candidate. There is no such perfect company. So I would say, okay, at least if you have the right, I would say, level of skills, the right level of attitude, the right level of communication, the right level. And when I say like the right level, I'm not saying like at the end of the day, it's like it's a metrics. Like what's important for you most? Like, is it if I'm hiring like for a leadership role, let's say, and okay, I need like leadership, communication, etc., right? And then less about technical skills, of course, by definition. But then, okay, I take like 4 out of, for example, 7 or 8 boxes. Is that enough? I don't think it's enough for a leadership role. So for a leadership role, I need to take 7 or 8.
Okay.
Now, when you think about junior one, it's different story. Actually, I can take 3 or 4. It's
because you appreciate you're going to have to invest in that person anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So eventually, when we're looking at the candidates' experience and companies' experience, actually within the hiring, you're looking at it to say, you know what? They don't need to be risk adverse, but what they need to do is to ensure, like once they ticked all the boxes, at least, like the first 100 days are really important.
Yeah.
Or the first 6 months maybe are really important, because this is where also you see if that person is really a good leader, toxic leader, good communicator, bad communicator, etc.
Okay. So if I was a candidate applying for a role in a big corporate, and I knew that there were these 7, 8 boxes that needed to be ticked, what type of screening or assessment can I expect from a well-designed organization that's really clear on what those 7, 8 boxes actually look like?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say maybe something like predictive index, something like a big 5 questionnaires, something like these questionnaires, typical questionnaires, case studies. Many companies, they do case studies. Personally, I'm against them.
I was about to ask, because if I've got 20 years experience and then you're asking me to present a case study, surely you're questioning everything I've done in the last 20 years.
Honestly, if I got this, I wouldn't do it. I was like, okay, thank you guys. Thank you, but no thank you.
But then are we then saying that client processes in well-developed corporates can be somewhat antiquated? And so you risk losing good talent?
Absolutely.
Or is it because people just don't want to own a decision, so they rely on diagnostics and case studies to make the decision for them?
It's combination. I'm telling you something. It's combination of some corporates are a bit still rigid. Employees in the corporates, they are looking for, again, taking out the accountability, or at least lack of strategy, or still stuck with the old ways of doing things. Remember maybe in the 2000s, like case studies were like, the trend, the trendy thing to do, because Google started doing it, but that was long time ago, right? Some people, they're living in that era. So this is where, in my opinion, it's a combination of lack of strategy, talent acquisition strategy, lack of accountability, and rigidity.
Okay. And then if I go through that whole process and I'm the candidate. And it's very rare that candidates get feedback, which I think is a massive problem for the whole market, both talking top organizations and regional players. No one wants to give feedback. But then when you get it, it's opaque, it's vague, it's this person wasn't strategic enough. Is that true? Is that, being on the other side, is that feedback genuinely true, or are you just picking something to push back on because maybe you didn't like the tie that they wore or something like that? Come on, you got to give it to me. You're outside the corporate now. What really happens?
What happens behind the scenes is that they don't have feedback. By the way, one of the things that happened behind the scenes, and this is like for all candidates that are hearing this one, most of the times, maybe, I would say maybe 80% of the times, corporates, whenever they announce, whenever they post, they already have an internal candidate waiting.
No.
Yes.
Yes. No.
Yes.
So what, 1 in 5 roles are actually genuine to the point where they actually need to make a hire externally, as opposed to they're just benchmarking against internal talent?
Honestly, like, junior level,
Yeah.
you can be like, you are okay. And countries where it makes it difficult for expats to come.
Of course, yeah.
This is another one. I mean, I would think of these two things.
Okay.
But the rest, I mean, Saudi, they did something amazing, like when they localize or Saudized, for example, certain positions. And they have all the right to do so, because otherwise corporate will abuse the system.
Yeah. I mean, that's more about them trying to generate a knowledge-based economy as a replacement to an oil-based economy. So
Definitely.
they need to make sure that they look after their own people, which is absolutely the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. This is scary.
It is,
it's not
like
what
that.
I don't know already, but it's scary to kind of sometimes hear it from the other side. Then if I was to then move away quickly and talk about the process. So the big topics of today, AI, automation, what impact it's going to have on how we experience things. If you look at recruitment, AI and automation is all about creating speed, efficiency, accuracy. Do you think that this region is ready for that at this stage?
That's a good question, because we need to ask ourselves, like, do we have the right basis? Do we have the right infrastructure for that? Because AI is not, man, everyone now is an expert in AI. Sorry. Everyone is an expert in AI.
I'm not. And I
know. But when you go like on LinkedIn or workshops or conventions, and you see everyone is talking about AI in a different way, they're like, wow, where all this expertise coming from? It's relatively new for most of us. I know, like, okay, I met people last month. We were in Boston. I met someone who's been a professor in AI for the past 20 years. But he's in Harvard and he's in Northwestern, I think, University.
Yeah.
But okay, this is someone who works on a different level. But for most of us, like, we are like, I would say, average people with somehow good knowledge. I would say we started to be introduced to AI recently, like in the five years, I would say. Yes, there are some genuine experts, and I'm not criticizing anyone, but what I'm saying is, we need to be very careful when we are talking about AI. We need to be very careful when we are talking about, because at the end of the day, some companies, they want to implement AI, not even like, we'll talk about like region and we'll talk about companies, but they don't have the basics.
They don't have the basics.
They don't have SOPs.
But then even about, we can look at the implementation part, but what about the experience? And you mentioned it yourself. If you're talking to a 20 plus year senior leader and you're asking them to do a case study, it could sour the experience for that individual.
Absolutely.
Now I'm a 5 to 10 year mid-level career, and my first engagement with a company is an automated engagement with a chatbot or an agent who they're just trying to pick up on key things to screen me along with another 499 applicants. Are we ready for that? Or do you think that the human element is still fundamental in being able to attract and assess?
Let me reverse the question. Is that a bad thing, by the way?
Look, I think optimization in any capacity is a good thing. But I think if you're talking about recruitment as like dating, in the sense that, you have to romance each other.
Yeah.
Where's my romance? Like, what am I getting back from the conversation?
But what if you are calling the girl and she's not picking up? At least.
Okay, so you're saying at least there's engagement when there's automation.
Exactly.
And so people don't feel as though they're just firing CVs into the abyss.
Absolutely.
I've never thought of it like that. Okay,
Absolutely.
okay.
I'll give you an example. Again, we spoke earlier about like you have 1,500 candidates per post in GCC at least, right? Now, think of it this way. How many times people applying and they are not receiving any feedback? Nothing.
That's 99% of applications.
True. And what's their experience?
Okay. I'm going to flip this back again then to you.
Okay.
This is going to be recruitment table tennis. Yeah. You spoke earlier about companies who already have in their mind who they want for the role. But let's say, for example, process means they have to advertise.
Mm-hmm.
When you advertise a role as a company, and you know already that you're not going to hire, what damage are you actually doing not only to the candidate pool, but to your own brand as well as an organization?
Oh, that's unethical.
It's unethical.
By the way, personally, I know I did it in the past. I'm guilty as charged. But that was as part of the policy that I was working on.
You were forced to do it as part of a larger process.
Exactly.
Okay.
But to be honest, man, this is very, very damaging. And you shouldn't do that if you are a company with a good internal candidate. Do not post externally. This is really damaging for the internal candidate, by the way, for your internal candidate, because they will see the vacancy or the posts up there on LinkedIn or Indeed and say, and I'm the chosen one, or at least I'm a strong candidate. Why they are looking outside? They will not understand. 2, you are damaging the external candidates. You are damaging your employer branding.
Yeah.
So why would you do that? And guess what? People would know.
People will know, people will talk. And I think when you're looking for a role, it's tough because there's a reason why you're looking for a position. Yes. And it could be that you're in survival mode. It could be that you're in a situation where, you're perhaps the company you're with is just not giving you what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings a lot of questions internally into, am I right? Am I fit for purpose? And then you're not getting responses.
Yeah.
And it just snowballs into this damaging self-esteem.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then if we look at generational changes. So you spoke earlier about, in the 70s and 80s, it was all about technical assessment, and then we'll sit you on the seat and you'll do your job for 20, 25 years and you'll get a Rolex carriage clock at the end as a big thank you. If we look at Gen Zs, we have to firstly create multi-generational workforce or environments for multi-generational workforce. But then what impact does this have on Gen Zs who may take things a bit more personally?
You know what psychologists call Gen Z?
No, tell me.
PlayStation generation.
PlayStation. I like Gen Zs, by the way.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Our workforce is increasing in terms of the number of Gen Zs. And I don't know, how would you describe a Gen Z compared to a Gen M, Gen X in terms of what it means for a company, like how you manage them?
Well, this is a very broad question, mate. I'll tell you something. I believe Gen Z will bring changes to corporates more than any other generation before.
100%.
This is important for companies to realize this and to start acting accordingly. Now, when we're comparing them, look at generations from the baby boomers, right? They were all about technical skills, 9 to 5, maybe 9 to 9, I think at that time. They go to a company, they stick there for 20, 30 years until they're retired. That was the trend.
Yeah.
Then you have the millennials, then they started are changing jobs every 3, 4 years, 5 years, sometimes 10 years. But you have this, there was start to move. The previous generations, like baby boomers, for example, there were a lot of focus on extrinsic motivation. I'm talking about salaries, compensations, technically, anything about compensations. Now, with generations going by, they started working about intrinsic motivation. And this is where Gen Z are so different because they are totally the opposite. They think of more about their intrinsic motivation more than extrinsic motivation. Statistically speaking, 65% of Gen Z would reject a position if the values of the company doesn't match with them, or if there's a misleading. The other statistic like that was, I found it very interesting also by Gallup, 61% they would leave within the first year if it doesn't match.
And if the values don't match or something else happens?
Yes, like the working environment doesn't match their what they're looking for.
So would it be fair to say then that Gen Zs, when they go through an interview process, are more critical and more demanding from an interview process because they seek more information, as opposed to a conventional interview, which is you ask the questions and I give the answers?
I believe so, yes.
And are companies prepared to be challenged and questioned in these types of situations?
I can't speak, on behalf of all companies, but I do believe if you are a company now, start hiring, not only hiring Gen Z, start involving Gen Z in the hiring process, start involving them in your talent processes. If you didn't involve them today, tomorrow you will suffer big time.
Yeah.
Because look, Gen Z now, we are talking about like people who are like 25 years old. So they already have 3 years experience. So they are about to become managers.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And then if you look at it then from a how you stand out as a candidate, and again, this is a generational thing because I've seen it over the last 20 years in this region. So CVs now look much different to what they used to look like 5-10 years ago. So it's very obvious that if you're in the first 7 to 8 years of your professional career, you could have had 3, maybe even 4 moves at that time. Do you think companies, let's say, for example, big corporates, big blue chips, right, where they're tens of thousands of employees, do they realize that this is actually the norm and not the exception?
I believe so, and I hope so.
Yeah.
But according to my experience, yes, people started changing their mind about the moves that you had before. It happened to me, by the way. In the first 5 years, 5 companies.
Did it? That's not on your LinkedIn, by the way. I couldn't see that.
Yeah, I know. I'm a long timer now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 5 years, five moves.
How did you rationalize that? So was it a case that you were being cherry picked to go and join these organizations, or you were just finding that your value system didn't match theirs, so you looked for something different?
It's a combination. So it's career choice at the end of the day. I was progressing, and there are I remember some companies where you know what, I don't want to keep working with a local company. I want to work with an international company, and this is where I started looking.
So your aspirations were, I need more scale, a mobility opportunities, and a brand that makes me look better than a lesser brand.
And don't forget that I moved from the software engineering to HR. I mean, that shift, which was not easy to do, but eventually when it happened gradually over 3 companies.
This is a big challenge for a lot of people. So they get into a career. Let's say, for example, they're in sales for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then they become disillusioned with sales, or it's a skill set that's changed quicker than their own abilities, and they want to transition into a different function or a different industry.
Yeah.
Can that happen in the Middle East?
Of course it can happen. Now, definitely your CV, there is stigma, to be honest. If you have, let's say, I don't know, the past 10 years or 5 years, your experience, let's say in sales, then people will look at you from sales perspective. And this is your role as a candidate to start making as much maybe certifications and networking. Networking then is going to be really important because CV will not get you a job. If you are
the people that you know, it's this place is a village by all intents. Okay.
If you network with people, you will get the job, especially when you are doing cross-functional. If you are moving within sales, for example, you still, you can find jobs.
Yeah.
But if you want to move, you need a lot of networking.
You need a lot of networking. And it's a who you know, not what you know situation.
Yes. Who knows you, actually.
Or who knows you, exactly. We've actually covered a lot of different topics that I wanted to talk about really succinctly, but with a lot of depth and a lot of accuracy. And I want to just thank you, first of all, for taking off the former corporate hat and sharing those insights. Thank you for watching. For more from ChatGRG, follow us at YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. See you next time.